I would now like to call your attention to a most impressive member of the class of 2012, Valedictorian Devorah Lebovic. Devorah will graduate with a BBA degree in economics with a minor in political science. She is a fellow of the UJA Shapiro Family Fellowship Program. She has served as a volunteer with Learning Leaders and as program coordinator for the Youth Organization for Israel's Club at the school. Upon her graduation, Devorah plans to attend law school and eventually practice constitutional law. I'm delighted to introduce the valedictorian of the class of 2012, Devorah Lebovic.
President Wallerstein, distinguished members of the Presidential Platform Party, faculty, friends, family, and fellow graduates. Most people stand up here and tell you to change the world. They talk about all the wrongs in the world, how there is so much corruption, exploitation, and greed, and how it is up to the fresh young college student about to embark on his journey to go out and change the world. But I'm going to tell you not to. We are quite a diverse school here. Each of us has our own unique story, and I am no different. Like many here, I do not have the typical American upbringing. I grew up in a community that is foreign to most. At 19 years old, I realized I needed to venture out and figure out who I was without the pressure of others. With a little bit of money in my pocket, I moved to California. It was a struggle and it was definitely tough. I left the only life I knew and went to a place I knew nothing about. However, it allowed me to step back from my life and find out who I truly was. I wound up with a successful real estate career and ultimately a position at a large firm with a great career track ahead of me. I left it all to return to school. I didn't follow the typical path, and by keeping myself open, I was able to discover who I was, what it was that I found important, and what it was that I truly stood for. I've consistently been told in class, why don't you just agree with the professor? You'll get a much easier A. Or why do you have to disagree with everything? And my response is, I don't disagree with everything, I just don't agree with everything. The more we learn, and the more I learned, the more inquisitive I became, the more I realized there are different perspectives to everything in life. So many of us state opinions that we heard on a TV show or read in a newspaper article. We rarely question the things that we are told or the opinions that we are fed. By learning, investigating, and being inquisitive, and not just accepting everything that we hear, will allow us to discover who we really are, what we really believe, and what it is that we stand for. It is always easier to look at everybody else's shortcomings. We see this every day. We hear about greed and corruption, the faults of corporations and government. Many of us join causes and movements. We may rally, demonstrate, occupy, campaign, and march about different ideas. While all these things are fine and good, when do we take a moment to actually focus on ourselves? When do we take a look in the mirror and focus on what we do, on who we are, versus what everybody else around us is doing? There is no quick escalator rise to change. We have to take the steps. Clearly, Baruch has taken this a little bit too literally. I think class of 2020 will see an escalator. If we truly want to make the world a better place, we need to start with the one thing we can control, our actions. It's very nice to rally and demonstrate against all the injustices in the world. But instead of rallying about everyone else changing, we should actually be the change we want to see in the world. We should be that person. We should be that good person, that honest person, that compassionate person that we are rallying for others to be. We are who we pretend to be, so we should be very careful about who we pretend to be. I'm not saying we should be complacent with the world around us, but we must not focus all our energies rallying and waiting for the world around us to change. We should be the change we want to see in the world. We all know about Baruch's incredible rankings, our accounting program, one of the best college buys, our diversity, all that stuff that we hear about. But the distinction some may have benefited from most is rarely mentioned. Date My School rated Baruch second as the college with the best looking women nationally. Rankings are great, and good looks are fantastic. But many times, there was far more than meets the eye. There's an experience I had in California that has always stayed in my mind. It was an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I had a friend who had a drug and alcohol problem, who asked me to support him and come to a meeting with him. I remember sitting in the meeting and thinking one thing: this is humanity. I was in a room with no judgments, with people just being people, having no guards or ears about them. I remember the feeling of true camaraderie and compassion that I felt in that room, and I've never forgotten it. There were people there who were doctors, lawyers, and actors, but in that room, they were just people, people stripped down to their very core. This was the beginning of my understanding that behind every person, there's a story, and if we knew that story, we wouldn't be so quick to judge. We sometimes look at the world through our perspective only and forget that behind every person we meet, there is a person with his own battles and struggles, a person with his own ideas and perspectives. It is usually the person who is most difficult to be nice to, the person who is most difficult to forgive, that is the person who is in the most need of acceptance and understanding. We should always remember to forgive people because they are only just human. And while we remember to forgive, we should never forget to forgive the person who is usually the hardest person for us to accept, ourselves. Because we are only just human too. Life will hand us many challenges, but we need to remember to go easy on ourselves, because all we can do is our best, and the rest is out of our hands. There is no way I can possibly stand up here in good conscience without thanking my family, my friend Hannah, and most of all, my Huckleberry friend. They have stood by me no matter what, have been my cheerleaders, and the best people I've ever met. These are the people who taught me how to be kind to others, how to be my own person, and how to never, ever go against what I believe. So class of 2012, question everything, forgive people, and be careful about who you pretend to be. Get ready for the world that awaits. I promise you, it is a world with romantic getaways that far exceed the Newman Library's purple chairs. We are the newest graduates of Baruch. We have an edge, we have the smarts, clearly we have the looks, and we have an alma mater that we can be proud of. Congratulations, graduates, we did it.